Thank you for inviting me here, and I want to shortly present a little bit about the regulatory cooperation in the regions. I very much liked what I heard, that indeed this is a region, it's a cooperative effort to be made by TSOs, governments, and there are also examples there, specific examples of regional cooperation, and last but not least, ACER and NRAs. And the only, let's say, thing that I hear is that it seems that the regulatory participation and the activities of the NRAs has not yet been described or communicated sufficiently, because I think we do quite a lot here in this area, and that's what I want to shortly present here. So I think it's important to say that apart from the fact that indeed the regional cooperation is nothing brand new, however, I think the communication on the energy union clearly pointed out that regionalization or regional cooperation is an important element of the development towards the energy union. I think this was probably not made so clear from the framework in the past. And I think this is an important recognition of regional cooperation, so that we have the consistency and the balance, as was said, from the national level via the regional level towards the internal energy market. So in this, let's say, vertical approach, and on the regional side, we would have a horizontal aspect that is a cooperation among TSOs with NRAs and partly also with the governments with regard to their national policies, which need also to reflect the integration that is needed. And I think that is, let's say, the first message I would like to make clear, that we are fully in line with this concept of the energy union communication and really support a regional approach as an intermediate step towards full harmonization and towards an functioning internal energy market. I think this is a step-by-step approach which we need to follow. And I have also mentioned here the objectives again, and as was said today, we have an additional challenge, clearly an additional challenge compared to the past, and that is to integrate fully the renewables. And Germany may be a test bed and maybe some sort of speeding it up, probably too much, but I think there's no other solution than relying on more renewables. So the problems we face currently about integrating renewables in the market and prepare and speed up the grid expansion in Germany is just an example, or as I said, a first mover towards this kind of developed low carbon economy, and I think it was mentioned this morning as well, which we need to factor in. There's no other way. So we have the third energy market package, of course, and we have the energy union communication. I mentioned this already, and we will have soon the winter package. It was also announced this morning, with including the energy market or electricity market design. I think, I would expect that the path that is shown in the energy union communication will be followed also in the upcoming winter package. And that clearly means a stronger element with regard to regional coordination. And of course, then also the role of ACER needs to be analyzed and needs to be fitted in, because, as I said, the regulators are an important part of this development. Here are, and I think I don't need to go into detail because we have heard this several times, the benefits and the needs of NRA's cooperation tasks, and in pushing forward the regional cooperation and the, let's say, implementation, which of course lies with the TSOs, no doubt about this. Let me now come to a quick overview on what we have already in the different legal frameworks and the different legal texts with regard to NRA's cooperation, before ending up with some elements, with some examples of what actually is done already. You know that we will have and have already coordinated NRA's decisions in the CACAM guidelines. There are also foreseen joint decisions with regard to the 10E region, so the PCI, and that regards the cross-border cost allocation, which is an important element also of first regional cooperation, but then spreading, again, we have this effect of spreading then over to the internal market as a whole. And again, we see this element or the link between the national regions and the internal energy market in the end. We maybe just on one other aspect of regional cooperation, which was not mentioned yet today, but which should also not be forgotten. You know that we also have REMIT, so the market integrity and transparency regulation, and here as well there are foreseen several elements of NRA's cooperation, and that basically also means on the regional level, and that already also started. We are together, of course, with ACER, well into the implementation of REMIT as an, let's say, important element of the internal energy market as a whole, and that should not be forgotten. Now, coming to some examples of where we already start to implement this and to, let's say, live regional cooperation, I just want to mention that even before CACAM, there were already examples of early implementation. And I think these are, let's say, now the nucleus, if I may say so, of further regionalization and further regional cooperation in that regard. And I have mentioned also the NRAs that are involved in the different early implementation projects. There are also some quite different types of regional cooperation among NRAs. I have mentioned here, for example, the group of Nordic regulators or the Iberian regulators model, which do not follow exactly the model that is in the network codes, but that were created on a voluntary basis to push forward the regional markets in the northern part and also in the southern part, which should not be forgotten. Now, let me just mention two examples with regard to specific projects in which BNetzA as a regulator is involved. We have heard already also this in this session the important cross-border intraday project, XBIT, which is finally underway. I have to say it was a long process, but I think the important element here again is let's say the steer that NRAs together with ACER and the Commission provide to push the project further to start the implementation. So that is the role of NRAs here to give the incentives and to give the steer, if I may say so. And of course, this then implies several bilateral contacts also of NRAs, among other things, for example, the bilateral exchange with the Swiss electricity regulator, ALCOM, and BNetzA about cross-border dispatch. And of course, we have heard about the various regions of market coupling. We all know that the CWE is a let's say longer-term project and is already has already, let's say, reached the flow-based market coupling status of quite some markets here. And I think this could be well the model in a way to now then move towards the so-called core region of fitting together then the CEWE plus CEA. And I think that again shows, let's say, the step-by-step approach we see from the regional perspective, from the regional approach following here. And the idea is to have a methodology on the common flow-based method for this core region according to CACM by the first quarter in 2017. Of course, this is very ambitious, but I think we need to be ambitious in these situations to reach the target of the ultimately the target of the internal energy market. Even so, some of the milestones or of the target dates have already passed. This is just, without going into any details, an example of governmental regional cooperation, the so-called Pentalateral Energy Forum. And with this, I come to the conclusions. We have seen that there are different elements, let's say voluntary agreements as a low-key start, and then going into the institutional framework with ACER recommendations, with CER guidelines of good practice, and ultimately, of course, now also with the guidelines and the network codes, which also work in this direction. And I think it's clear there is value added, and we have seen it is the regional approach has the possibility and of providing flexible and adaptable implementation tools. It involves only the concerned parties, and I think that is also something which should not be forgotten, because this is the argument against we will have another layer of bureaucracy, and this I think can be avoided because the regional approach is looking only at the concerned parties. And as I showed also, there were voluntary starts and early implementation projects finally becoming ending up in a legally binding role. We see that this functions, and therefore we think that the let's say current governance is fit for purpose. And overall, just to close with this, I think the regional approach is a very important stepping stone, if I may say so, to walk towards the internal energy market. Thank you.